All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's edition of Roundabout Sports presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. Thank you so much, folks. It is Wednesday, November 22nd, Thanksgiving Eve here, 2023. And it's a pleasure. I'm Jeremy Karp alongside Jared Shannon. Jared, it is such a pleasure having you on.
Thank you for having me on, Jeremy. It's always a pleasure to be next to you.
I know we definitely have quite a few things to talk about. I think a lot of people are frustrated with the fact that um so the Cardinals and yes, here's a happy Thanksgiving wish from my dad to all of us. And yes, happy Thanksgiving to all those, or early Thanksgiving to all those who will celebrate. So as you know, free agency started in baseball, and the Cardinals, John Mozeliak, Bill DeWitt, they all said they'd be active in free agency right now. But I think when they said that, people were expecting a little bit more than what's happened so far. So let me break it down just a little bit. Okay. Because while I'm not exactly defending the fact the Cardinals signed former pitcher Lance or former Cardinal Lance Lynn, as well as Kyle Gibson, I'm trying to understand the reasoning behind it. Okay, the Cardinals last year, one big problem they had, they could not get innings out of these guys. They were one of the worst teams in baseball when it came to getting pitchers, starters deep into innings. Well, I mean, Lance Lynn last year started 32 games, and 84% of his games went past 5 innings, 53% went past 6 innings. Um, Kyle Gibson last year, 85% of his games went past 5 innings, 58% went past 6 innings. Okay, so Wayno, Matthew Liberatore, Jake Woodford, Drew Rom, and Dakota Hudson combined 60 games started. 50% of them went past 5 innings. 27% of them went past 6 innings. So while as far as the quality goes, or as far as like the elite talent goes, isn't there, it's already an improvement when it comes to innings eaters. Um, so that's about 35% more often than Wainwright, Liberatore, Woodford, Hudson, and Rom did in 2023. Um, to be able to just get out of the fifth and the sixth inning would be a huge boost for the bullpen that was put through the ringer last year because they had no other choice. They had to go in early, and thus they suffered because of it. The only true innings eater on this Cardinals team is Miles Michaelis, and yet he had one of the highest earned run averages in baseball. Um, okay, so this is kind of what a lot of people think the rotation's looking like right now. You got right now you got Matz, Michaelis, Lynn, and Gibson. You got no idea who the hell is going to be the other two spots because Wainwright's retired, Montgomery's gone. A lot of other players got traded. It's it's a mess. Pitching was the main issue though for the Cardinals, and at least we know they're trying to address it. However, I feel like it could have started off better. And I want to say this before I pass it on to you, Jared. More money doesn't always mean the free agent's going to sign with you. You have to still want to go to a team. This is why even if the Cardinals offered Aaron Nola $250 million, which I doubt they did, but even if they did, Nola might very well still want to go to Philly again, which he did. He signed a 7-year, $175 million contract. So what do you think so how do you feel, Jared, about what Mo has done so far?
You know, my opinion about what Mo has done thus far is that I don't think he knows what he's doing right now. I just feel as if he's just focusing in one range at this currently at this point, which is which shouldn't be his focus right now. Yes, pitching was a big issue last season, but if he, and I say a big if he covers pitching this year, there's always going to be another issue. You just signed Lynn to a 1 year contract. When that 1 year comes up, what happens after that?
It's
Now
true.
it's it just doesn't make sense of what he's doing currently. I don't think I haven't read if he's come up with an explanation of why he's only doing a 1 year contract. Is it to trial run if he still has that itch and that push in him? But to me, Mo currently doesn't have an idea of what he's doing right now.
And that's what a lot of the criticism he's been getting lately is a lot of people feel he doesn't know what he's doing. Now, here's a starter I really want to see join the Cardinals. Okay. Sonny Gray. Now, Gray can be the top pitcher in this rotation if they somehow get him. He put up a 2.79 ERA in 32 starts last year. He finished second in the Cy Young voting. He's 15th in baseball, of all baseball, in ERA among starters who've thrown 1,000 innings since he started his career. He's been really underrated throughout his entire career as well. And in 2022, he posted a 3.08 ERA. Now, the days of having those 1.79, or 1.58 ERA, things like that, those days are pretty much done, because much like football becoming an offensive league, baseball is becoming an offensive league as well. They cater to the hitters. And so, Blake Snell's also another good person. He's coming off his second career Cy Young Award, and he posted a 2.25 ERA. Struck out 234 batters in 32 starts, or 32 starts, but in 180 innings of work. Those are ideal candidates for the Cardinals to truly boost their rotation, because this is the issue a lot of people have. Lance Lynn, former Cardinal. He's 36 years old. Like you said, Jared, you're talking a 1-year deal. Another 1-year deal. Kyle Gibson, 36 years old. You have enough 30 plus, 35 plus year olds in that rotation just when you had Wainwright and Steven Matz in there. You don't need to go out and get all these guys for short-term things. You need to really build up. And keep in mind, Jack Flaherty's not there anymore either. You need to build up a long-term solution at your starting rotation. Because for reference, you take a look at a guy like Blake Snell. Blake Snell is only, and if I can pull this up quickly enough, Blake Snell's 30 years old. So 30 still, but a few more years in him than guys like Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson you would expect.
Yeah, and like you said, my question comes to why is Mo going for the slightly older pitchers? Which, when you look at Gray, he's 32 years old, if I'm correct.
Yes. Well, Sonny Gray is 34.
34. But when you look at that difference, 36 to 34, Sonny still has that ideal longevity in him. While 36, you're kind of hitting that brink for most MLB players, hinting towards that retirement age.
Right.
And you could still get that time out of Gray if they could land him, which if they do, I think that they would be in a safe position from trading Montgomery and Flaherty, at least to an extent. And I believe he would be the one that would carry the Cardinals for the most part of it.
Yeah. I mean, and Mozeliak, the day that Lynn and Gibson were signed, he held an impromptu conference, and he said that saying that there's a lot of offseason still to happen. Okay, Mozeliak says that the offseason there's a lot to happen. Yes, that is true. But, you know, maybe there is a grand plan. We always talk about Mo knows, and it's at this point it's fun to mock it. But most seems to signal that he has this grand plan. And the thing of it is, it's hard to when the team is clearly in need of these top guys that they're not going out to even trying to get. Um, you know, this is the thing. This wasn't just an off year for the Cardinals. The Cardinals just had their worst record in 30 years, their first last place finish in 30 years. I mean, those are two firsts in my lifetime. I've never been alive when the Cardinals were in last place. This is the first time for that to happen. And one of our favorites, the snitch himself, says that he could throw 200 crappy innings. Sign me, Mo. Honestly, I could, you know what? Screw it. Sign the snitch out there. I could dig seeing it. Give him some work. Give him something to do. Make a lot of money. I'll tell you that much. Um, and of course, happy Thanksgiving to the snitch. Oh, now I can get behind this. He's a lefty. I'm a lefty too. It's Southpaw City. Okay, now I can get behind that a bit. Now people say that they might move Mats to the bullpen. We don't know what the hell they're going to do. Maybe Mats does move to the bullpen. Maybe they move a guy from the bullpen to the rotation. We don't know. And that's the thing. When you're this vague and ambiguous about revamping a team that lost 91 games, there is a big problem. Because at this point, John Mozeliak is lucky he still has a job. The fact he still has a job is amazing to me. Because I tell you, there are 29 other franchises in baseball where if John Mozeliak has performed the way he has in recent years, he'd be gone.
Yeah.
But because it's the St. Louis Cardinals where tradition thrives, they're keeping Mozeliak along. But I'm going to tell you something. If George Steinbrenner was still alive for the Yankees, he would have fired and rehired Mozeliak about 10 times already. But the DeWitts are hanging on to Mozeliak. And of course they try to do moves that cater to the fan favorites. So they signed Lance Lynn. Big hooray! Former Cardinal pitcher, was a World Series winning pitcher with the team. We're going to get our new bench coach, Daniel Descalzo, a former World Series winning player with the team. Okay, nothing but love for these guys. It's great having them as a part of the franchise. But Lynn is not who we need right now. And the only reason Descalzo was signed as the new bench coach just because Joe McEwing is now working in the front office. And the only reason Joe McEwing was a bench coach last year is because Matt Holliday suddenly stepped down. And you got Skip Schumacher, who's manager of the Marlins. You got former Cardinal manager Mike Schilt, who, because he wasn't wanting to be the puppet of the front office, got fired. And he's now the manager of the Padres. I mean, guys are getting opportunities elsewhere that were in the Cardinals organization. And I'm not saying Mike Schilt would have led us to 5 World Series or anything, but I will say that he was doing good enough to where he shouldn't have gotten canned when he did. And I mean, I haven't been short on my criticisms of Ollie. I feel that he didn't have the experience needed to truly be a manager. I feel he is fortunate to be on the franchise that he is. because with the plethora of talent that you have, it's quite amazing that they only won 71 games. But you can only mask the holes for so long. You can only put a tarp over them for so long. Eventually they become exposed, and then you have to fix them. And that's where the Cardinals are at right now. They hid the problems that the franchise had for so long, but now it's been exposed and they got to work on it.
You know, Mazolak said before, this year we wanted to go in with a little more certainty and have that veteran presence. You need guys you can count on. You need guys with experience. My thing with that statement is the part where he said that veteran presence. But that also takes me back to the age issue. They're aging, and it's like, for pitching, how much longer can they keep throwing with that strength in their arm before they pull something in their arm due to age? Then that puts you out a pitcher or whoever's in a certain position. I think they need to really focus on their younger guys that are trying to make it to the major league compared to the minor league. But he's putting his trust too much into the veterans, which you can see it from both sides of it. Yeah, the veterans can also help the youngers, the youngins, youngers, however people want to say it, but it still takes me back to the age thing.
You look at it to where, okay, last year with Wainwright, I consider an outlier. There's no way you weren't going to give Adam Wainwright whatever he wanted because he deserved it, first of all. Adam Wainwright, Cardinal Hall of Famer, borderline baseball Hall of Famer, two-time World Series champion, and the way I see it, yeah, if Wainwright wanted to go out, I mean, he basically blew his arm out going out there that last season, but he did it. He got to 200 wins. You know, give him his due. Okay, but you have a chance to go out and sign some younger guys. Wainwright was 42. When we say go out and sign some younger guys, we're not saying sign younger guys from 42 years old to 36. Because Adam Wainwright was the second oldest player in baseball when he retired. There's that bar basically, and we're talking maybe sign guys that are 27, 28, mix them in with guys that are in the farm system. Something's got to give. And I hate saying I don't know how much more time Mo has as the president of baseball operations, but at this point, I've just given up the thought of Mo getting fired. I feel like no matter what the hell happens at this point, he's still going to be a part of this franchise. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe. And the thing of it is, though, for it to be wrong, the Cardinals would have to be worse than what they did this year. And I personally don't want to see that.
No.
Like, we're not actively rooting against the Cardinals here. We want the Cardinals to be successful. But the thing of it is, usually, it's not often a guy is fired after doing great. He might retire. But let's put it this way. Say the Cardinals won the World Series this upcoming season. When's the last time a manager got fired after winning the World Series? That's like if they fired Andy Reid after winning the Super Bowl. Or when's the last time a GM or a president of baseball operations got fired after winning any type of sports championship? So we'll see what happens. But it is still early. I will give him that. He is right that it is still early, but the clock is still ticking for John Mozeliak and the St. Louis Cardinals. because this is a franchise that's built on consistency of success. So when that doesn't happen, keep in mind, folks, they haven't been to a World Series in a decade, and they haven't won a World Series in over a decade. Now, in Cardinals time, that is a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that, we are going to shift gears now. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in to Roundabout Sports on the Maestro Jeremy Carper alongside Jared Shannon. Now, something that's up more Jared's forte this Saturday. We have one of the big 5 pay-per-views in WWE, that being Survivor Series. Now, of course, War Games is going to be a prominently featured match throughout the show. And for those at home, Jared, kind of explain to them what War Games comprises of.
So, War Games, it is a very unique match that has been going on for a long, long, long time. And it basically includes 2 WWE wrestling rings surrounded by a steel cage. 2 teams. Let me pull up the proper rules. Just 1 second. Da-da-da-da. So the official rules is there's 2 teams and separate cages outside of the 2 wrestling rings with a giant cage around it. After 5 minutes, a member from the advanced team will be released to enter into that match. After a 3-minute period, alternating members from each team will enter the match until all competitors are inside the cage. Once all competitors have entered War Games, the match will officially begin. And the only way to win that match is by pinfall or submission. So, necessarily, if you're the first 2 people in there, you could technically be in there for 25 plus minutes because you have to wait for all of your team and your opponents to all be in that ring.
Wow. Yeah. That's going to be brutal.
Yeah, and in that War Games match, you have a big return, a long-awaited return, which is the Viper Killer, who is from St. Louis, Missouri, Randy Orton, who will be returning during that match, which I think is kind of, I want to say, nerve-wracking for that, because he's been out for almost 2 years.
As I say, it's been 18 months he's been out, so yeah.
And it was with a back injury, and you're going to put him in a match that includes a steel cage. It's just certain things that make me question WWE at that fact, but War Games is a very interesting concept and gimmick match.
It is, and so here's my thing. Let's talk about the long-term storytelling of this War Games. So Randy Orton was taken out by the Bloodline, which consists of Roman Reigns, the Usos, Solo, Sikoa, whatnot. Well, Jey Uso is going to be on Cody Rhodes' team alongside Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn. And I feel like I'm missing one.
You have Cody Rhodes.
Right, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and Randy Orton. Okay, I got them all. I got all 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I look at them, and then you look when Cody Rhodes announced that it was going to be Randy Orton. You saw the look that Jey Uso had. A lot of people were thinking maybe You know how Randy Orton, he's always loved being the heel. A lot of people
Mhm.
think Orton might turn heel at Survivor Series, or at the very least, just attack Jey Uso or something. You know, and but he has his work cut out for him against the guys on the Judgment Day, as well as Drew McIntyre. So it's a toss up on what'll happen, but there's a lot of interesting things, and this is why I do like the Triple H era WWE, because they keep those types of things rolling. Like, you would just think, oh, sweet, Randy Orton's on that team, everything's going to be great. Randy Orton being on the team and can ask a lot of questions, you know?
Yeah, and you can't forget about how Randy Orton had a very lengthy rivalry with Drew McIntyre during the pandemic era.
That's true too.
So technically, it could be a win-win. He turns on Jey Uso. If that decides to happen, then will anyone on that team, Cody, trust Randy after that and just leave him to be beaten by Judgment Day and Drew McIntyre?
I mean, it's only time will tell. I mean, it's coming up in a few days, but I'm looking forward to it. And then we have the women's War Games match where it's Damage Control. So you got Bailey, Io Sky, Kairi Zane, and Asuka going up against Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair, Shotzi, and Becky Lynch. Now I'll admit, I know everyone's gonna say that they expected it to be Becky Lynch. I did not. I really didn't one bit, and you know, I thought it made perfect sense, but that doesn't mean I thought that it would be what they choose. Like Charlotte says, she has to call a friend or whatever, call somebody who knows about going to war, and I mean, the jury was out. I really didn't know who the hell it would be, but when you see Becky Lynch come out there, and I'm like, holy shit! Like, I mean, who did you expect to be the fourth member?
I thought of two people. The first one was, of course, what I think most people may have thought of, which was the hopeful, which is the building and the iconic Jade Cargill. I think most people would have thought it was going to be her, which I thought it was going to be her or Zoe Starks originally before they announced her versus Rhea.
Yeah, and I think if it was Jade, and this is the thing, I don't think either of those three, Jade, Zoe, or Becky Lynch, would be bad choices. I think by having Becky Lynch there, you have somebody that's already well established, a big draw, big star, um, and it has a history with everybody involved in this match. Um, I mean, which I like as well, and that's the type of thing I enjoy. I enjoy when it keeps you on the edge of your toes. Um, I think Damage Control has gotten better in recent weeks. Um, I think that they were definitely struggling for a long time to get over. Because there's a difference between going away heat and you are really good at your job heat.
You know,
Um, Go ahead.
my opinion about uh, damage control is that, you know, I just they just haven't given me a reason to want to tune in to watch them. It's I can't really put a finger on it. They're all phenomenal athletes in their individual aspect. I think it may be because each of them have too much of a different personality compared to the other ones in their faction. And it just haven't given me a reason to want to say, "Oh, let's watch damage control in this match. Which I kind of just gave a spoiler who I'm going for, but they just haven't given me a reason.
I thought
And
they would have turned on Bailey. I really did. When Asuka joined, I thought that was when they were going to turn on Bailey, and then I was be like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. But no, Bailey stuck around, and I don't like damage control because I'm not supposed to like them. They're the heels. I mean, you can like heels. You get what I'm saying. But the way I see it, having Asuka, especially with Dakota Kai being out, provides that extra spark for them. I mean, you got three of the most talented women in WWE in Io Sky, Asuka, and Kairi Sane. That right there is enough to draw me in. Dakota being a good manager, Bailey being an underrated athlete, although all these years later, when you're used to her being that really good go-getter girl, Bailey as a heel is just annoying as hell.
I really love heel Bailey. I prefer her over the goody two shoes.
Oh man,
It
I
fits
miss
her.
the Bailey buddies, man.
I do not. But this heel, it just came so naturally with her. But I believe during that first stage, it was kind of difficult for her. But during
Right.
that pandemic era, it just something snapped and it came so naturally ever since.
I mean, and I think the pandemic would have, in a weird way, the pandemic helped because she didn't have to go as in front of as many big crowds. You'd have smaller crowds where you could hone your craft
Yeah.
and work on it from there, you know. And being in the Thunderdome gave you the illusion that you were in front of all the fans. So it helped you work on it more. And then when you finally got to the point where live crowds were back, it paid off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't mean I don't miss Face Bailey, but I
Face Bailey is never coming back. And, I like that because she's just so hilarious as a heel. And, hey, you got to give her the credit that Ding Dong, that talk show she had was very hilarious.
okay, yeah, I do. Ding dong, hello, or whatever. I do think that was funny. I'll give her that. I'll give you that. I did think it was funny.
And I don't think if she would have had a talk show as a face, it would have worked out like that. Can you really think of a face where a talk show really worked out long term?
Not, I mean, the barbershop, but we're going back to the 80s and 90s.
Well, that would still count.
Okay, well then, yeah, I'll go with the barbershop. Because I don't feel like in the Attitude Era there was as many talk show stuff. Like they didn't have those segments. Like, because growing up, we had the VIP Lounge, we had Ms. TV, we still had Piper's Pit. You had oh hell, Carlitos Cabana. You still had a lot of different. And the thing of it is, yes, I'll say it, they all were heels. Except Roddy Piper at the end. Like Roddy Piper's were face ones at the end, but let's face it, the ones he was most famous for were heels. So I get it. I'm trying to think if there was any others. I can't think of any.
The highlight reel.
Oh hell, the highlight reel. That was
Rollins
a good one.
Report. The KO show. Christian's talk show.
Oh God forbid Christian's talk show.
You can't
Smoking
forget
with RVD. No, I'm kidding.
Can't forget what was it? Miz and Morrison's first original talk show.
Oh God. I definitely forgot about that. I mean, I remember the tag team and everything. I thought they were fun as hell, but I forgot that show.
Yeah,
Um, okay, and yes, once again, heel, 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 heel. You know, and they all turned out. I mean, they all were very successful because it's easier to hate some, or it's easier to despise somebody than like somebody. Negative energy is just easier to embrace than positive energy. Unfortunately, in the world,
that is true. And
but yeah.
yeah, and War Games this Saturday, it's gonna be a very interesting premium live event. What I am looking forward to and what I am questioning is, since the world heavyweight champion Seth Rollins is in that War Games and Senior Money in the Bank Damian Priest is in there, could at the end where Judgment Day beats down all of the faces and have Damien cash in? That's a question that I'm thinking of.
I mean, that's a good thought. You know what the funny thing is? Could technically you cash in the middle of the match?
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, something could happen and then he'd steal it away. But and then so to finish off, we got three more matches on that pay-per-view. We got Gunther versus The Miz. Gunther, phenomenal in everything. Charisma, in-ring talent, physique, all of it, athleticism, you name it, just goated. Perfect program with the Miz. I think it's great that he's with him. Obviously Gunther's gonna win this one. There's no doubt about it. Rhea
Mm-mm.
Ripley versus Zoe Stark. As much as I'd love to see Zoe Stark win this one, I'm pretty sure we both think that Rhea's gonna retain.
Sadly, unfortunately. Hey, but that last match you said, I'm actually going with The Miz.
Really? You think the Miz is gonna win the title?
Yeah, mainly for one specific reason. Uh, Mr. Gunther, if he wins the Royal Rumble, technically he can't have that Intercontinental Champion going into WrestleMania.
Why is that?
If he chooses to challenge Seth Rollins or Mr. Tribal Chief, he can't have that Intercontinental Champion. All champions are defended at WrestleMania. Unless they have them defend night one and do night two. But
I mean, you've had an Intercontinental versus heavyweight champion at WrestleMania before. Um, and I could see it to where he would face off against. I mean, whether it be Roman Reigns. I mean, okay, I could see it to where Gunther loses at night one at WrestleMania, and then night two he beats Roman Reigns. Because look,
Gunther beating Roman Reigns?
I can see it.
Uh-uh.
The tribal chief is literally a part timer. He's defended it like 3 times all year.
Five
He
times.
5 times. 5 times. You are the main champion. You're supposed to defend it at every PLE. But no, he doesn't. And I get it, health issues, whatever it may be. But he's become a part timer. And at some point, that belt has to be off of him.
I set it up to this. Gunther wins the Royal Rumble, challenges Seth Rollins. Uh, they have Elimination Chamber the following month in Australia. Winner faces Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. 3 from SmackDown, 3 from Raw. Cody Rhodes win the Elimination Chamber. And then faces Roman Reigns and dethrone Roman Reigns in an I Quit match at WrestleMania.
Oh, wow.
Sends Roman to Hollywood and say bye-bye. But anything can happen in the wrestling world.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. We got one more match we got to talk about before we wrap it up this evening, and that is Carlito versus Santos Escobar.
Oh, that match. I don't think it really makes any sense to me, mainly for one reason. Yeah, they're in the LWO, but Santos never put a finger on Carlito, and nor has Carlito put a finger on Santos. It's it's trouble in paradise. LWO should have stayed a retired faction. It made no sense to me, for that reason. There was never any hype to LWO. There would never be any hype to it. The original will always be the better one.
Yeah, but that's how it was with. You could say the same with DX. You could say the same with the NWO. You could say the same with a lot. But it's been a huge draw. The crowd really has gotten behind it. And even if for one night only, it brought back one of my favorite all-time wrestlers, Savio Vega. So I'll take it. But no, in all reality, in all honesty here, I get it. There's reasons. Some things you don't need to bring back. Some factions, groups, tag teams, whatever. I think people were expecting this to be a complete flop, and surprisingly, it hasn't been. And kudos to them. So
I think it's been a flop.
I mean, we always can agree to disagree. So actually, we got one more thing before we go, and let me tell you, folks, this is so. The Philadelphia Eagles defeated the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday night in the most watched Monday night game in 30 years. A lot of criticism goes to MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, for dropping what would have been the go-ahead touchdown near the end of the game, which I feel is justified. You need to make that damn catch. I think what's happening is right now the Ravens have the number one seed in the AFC. Then the Chiefs, Jaguars, Dolphins, Browns, Texans, and Steelers. Those are all the playoff teams. The Chiefs, Browns, Jags, and Dolphins are all 7-3. I look at what's going on with Kansas City, and I'm telling you right now, that defense is hiding a lot of issues with the offense. Never thought the defense would be better than a Patrick Mahomes-led offense, but when your only real weapon is Travis Kelce, you're in it for a rough time. And I'm not saying. And last year they won the Super Bowl with their number one receiver being Juju Smith-Schuster on a bum knee. But at some point, even the magic of Mahomes can't mask the problems you as a team are going through. And the Chiefs aren't going to go far in the playoffs if they don't get their crap figured out and get these receivers figured out. Because I'm sorry, Travis Kelce's a Hall of Famer. He could retire tomorrow and he would be a Hall of Famer. But you can't rely on a 34-year-old tight end who's had multiple injuries throughout his career to carry the offense with Mahomes. You need other playmakers. And right now, they don't have that. They got Isaiah Pacheco, who's a solid running back. But when, MVS is your number one receiver, that's a big problem. Like, you got right now you also got Kadarius Toney, who had a huge drop. You had Sky Moore, who hasn't done much. You had McCole Hardman, who doesn't do much. You have Rashee Rice, who doesn't do much. The Chiefs receiving group it sounds like somebody from the Replacements. And it blows my mind because it's not that they're not talented, but damn, you're going up against some elite defenses here. Right now, the Chiefs are not going to be able to defend that Super Bowl title if they don't get that offense figured out. Just flat out.
I think the Chiefs have ran their high horse course. It's like, how many more times are they gonna keep riding a high horse? Because at some point, Mahomes is gonna want to step away. And can the Chiefs actually defend themselves if he's out for 5 games? Probably not, because they depend on one person a little too much. Because if you look at their win loss, Chiefs, I believe, are standing at a 7-3, which they are leading the AFC West right now. But can that actually be enough to actually go and defend yourself to say you're the best team that was in the 23 season?
Right.
No, because if you look at, and then let's go to NFC, Eagles, 9 wins, 1
9-1.
loss.
Detroit's 8-2.
The Eagles can very well say they're the best team in football right now. I believe they
Yeah,
have the best win-loss record of this season so far.
they do. You are correct.
And by the looks of it, I don't think the Chiefs will be going to defend their champion at the Super Bowl whatsoever.
We'll have to see what happens. Well, folks, we're going to wrap things up here on this Thanksgiving Eve edition of Roundabout Sports. I really want to thank Jared for being on this evening. As always, we put at the bottom of the screen, and for those that are listening to the audio-only version of our show, the NAMI helpline, we put it at 1-800-950-NAMI. That's 1-800-950-NAMI. It's the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It's the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for those who struggle. And of course, as always, we put the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline on the screen. For that, you can dial 988 as lines open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. Understand you're never alone out there. There's always somebody who loves and cares about you and just wants you to be the best person that you can possibly be. And you're just a phone call or email or text message away. And you could also be the listening ears for somebody who struggles. Be sure to find Interstate 70 Sports Media on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, as well as with Roundabout Sports on the Interstate 70 Sports Media YouTube channel and on Facebook. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We'll catch you next week. He's Jared. I'm the Maestro Jeremy Carp. And remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading. Good night, everybody.